In this video today, guys, I want to talk about the importance of understanding the term that is often used in psychology, which is that of gaslighting. Now, you hear this term thrown around a lot. It's often with regards to how other people manipulate other people, in most of the time the narcissistic kind of sphere of things, when people are talking about, oh, how do narcissists control other people and all this type of stuff. And they'll say, well, gaslighting, they use gaslighting, all this type of stuff. But what is very important to understand is that it's not that gaslighting is most commonly occurring by other people, but it is also very much commonly occurring from ourselves, self-gaslighting. I would say it's more consistent than someone else trying to gaslight you. And the reason why I'm saying this is because gaslighting is just fundamentally lying either to someone else or to yourself and trying to manipulate the reality in which someone is perceiving. That's basically what gaslighting is. So when it comes to someone doing it upon someone else, it's basically a process of that individual warping their sense of reality so that they don't understand what is true or false. And it usually happens because the person that's doing it to them wants to control them, or they want to manipulate their sense of reality to uphold some sort of image, to uphold some sort of persona that isn't actually real or authentic. Now, when it comes to gaslighting or self-gaslighting, gaslighting ourselves, this is basically us lying to ourselves, telling ourselves something that isn't true, and avoiding the reality of something that is true. So, for example, one example could be, let's say you're in a toxic relationship and you keep saying to yourself, oh no, this is fine. This thing that someone is doing is absolutely not something to worry about. Even though there are loads of symptoms of things that are indicating to you that you're in a toxic relationship, but you keep avoiding it and you just go along with the whole thing and you keep lying to yourself saying, no, it's totally fine, there's nothing wrong. That is self-gaslighting. And it's basically a form of self-sabotage because you're avoiding the reality for a fantasy. You're buying into a fantasy that isn't true, that isn't real, that isn't authentic. And this is what holds us back. Now, we can also do this, and we do this a lot, in relation to things that we fear through self-sabotage, which is very necessary to understand. So, for example, if we fear certain things, we often buy into projections, and we use those projections to basically avoid certain things because of the fear itself, the fear of the unknown, or the fear of doing whatever it is that you have anxiety or some sort of insecurity around. So, for example, self-gaslighting can also be in the sense of, I'm going to buy into a projection about something that isn't actually true or authentic, but I'm going to do that because it feels more comfortable to do so. And that is also a form of self-gaslighting, because again, you're lying to yourself. You're buying into a projection of reality that isn't 100% true or authentic. And you're using, and you're coming to that projection and to that conclusion within projection through logical fallacies and faulty reasoning, so that you can buy into it and buy into a lie that you're selling to yourself, so that you avoid a certain form of fear or anxiety that takes you out the comfort zone that you are in. So let me give you some examples of what this may look like for an individual. See, these are some hypothetical situations. So someone might say to themselves, I won't get the job. I have great work experience for the job, but there is always someone else better suited for it. Another would be, they seem great and want to meet me again, but I will probably come across as really awkward to them. I shouldn't go deeper into my life story with this person. They seem interested, but they will probably push me away the more I go deeper into my life. I should probably just agree with everything they say and want to do, because I really don't want to be rejected for being different, even if I disagree with what they want to do or their opinions. So these hypothetical examples are basically an individual who'd be using the fear of external judgment, the fear of being exposed as a fraud, which is like imposter syndrome, and fear of rejection And they're projecting those realities that fear is cultivating within them, which is warping their judgments of the real world and also their decisions that they're going to make. So these are things that commonly occur, I would say. Like if someone has social anxiety, they're going to have fear of external judgment. So therefore they're going to project an idea of what these certain people may think about them. And that idea of what that person, of what these people might think of them is totally a projection and not something of the truth, because you haven't asked what they think of you. You know, it's totally just a projection, and it's usually to protect in a very coping style, like through coping mechanisms, like to protect your own kind of comfortable bubble of existence so that you don't go into unknown situations which actually are going to help your self-development and your growth as an individual. So when we do this to ourselves, we are gaslighting our own reality with the use of faulty reasoning to basically appease the power that fear has over us by selling ourselves a lie based upon overgeneralization, emotional reasoning, mind reading, minimization, oversimplification. These kind of, you could say, cognitive distortory processes that are characterized by these definitions. And this leads us not to be able to truly see ourselves for who we actually are or do what we truly desire to do. And therefore we're blinded by our interpretation of a projection from the external gaze of which we cannot truly see. So we're basically living and believing in a lie, kind of like a Wizard of Oz kind of situation. So once we start to realize that we are doing this to ourselves, we can then truly start to begin the process of change and transformation to see things more clearly than ever before. And I believe this is usually the main crux of the problem with psychology, is that when people start to realize these ideas of projection and how we project things all the time that don't represent the actual genuine truth of certain things, the more we realize that, the more we can overcome it by actually putting ourselves forward in a more authentic way than relying on these certain fears and insecurities that we may have that lead us to project ideas onto things, because usually projections are 100% incorrect a lot of the time. And a strong kind of visceral projection that embodies very negative emotion is usually coming from a place of extreme insecurity for that individual. Usually. And it's very important that we recognize what those things are, and that instead we just go through things in life rather than avoid them by the means of projection. Because usually projection is to avoid something, avoid a certain situation that we might have fear or anxiety towards. So the more we realize this, and the more we realize the methods by which we do this, through, like I said, emotional reasoning, mind reading, minimization, all these sorts of things, which are called cognitive distortions, the more we can actually start to peel back the truth of what we're doing so that we can actually live a more authentic life. And that is probably the most important thing in psychology, is understanding gaslighting, self-sabotage, projection, shadow projection as well, because shadow projection was, as Carl Jung talked about, probably the most dangerous thing an individual could do, is to project the repressions of their own trauma onto someone else instead of taking accountability for them and being able to observe them and basically work through them in the process of self-development, because that usually leads to ultimate death when it comes to the evil in the world. Because most evil in the world comes from shadow projection. It comes from putting blame and our own trauma onto other people from that in which we repress and don't want to take accountability for, and that leads to all sorts of terrible things, which is why it's so important to understand ourselves in the process of becoming who we are fundamentally. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to give it a like, comment your thoughts down below. If you're interested in any form of coaching in relation to any of the things that I've talked about in this video, or if you are somewhat intrigued as to what type of coaching I do, sign up for a free one-on-one discovery call with me, and I can talk to you all about it, what I focus on, and how I can help you with whatever it may be with regards to procrastination, intrusive thoughts, all sorts of stuff like this. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll speak to you in the next one.